Serious, students who have dated their teachers, what's your story? I dated a law professor during the summer break after my first year. She was the spitting image of Lilith Sternin from Cheers in looks, dress, and mannerisms. She had 20 years on me and was not someone I would have considered attractive at that stage of my life. It would be safe to say she was not well liked by most students. She had just gone through a very brutal and very public divorce. As I was walking out of class, she was standing at the lectern with a 1,000-yard stare and looking utterly dejected. I talked her into hitting the bar with some other students and a couple of professors. She got loose. I got loose. And we spent the next 3 months chilling around and ducking like bunnies. I blew off a summer internship to go screw around. Which is probably why I ended up being a career public attorney, or not. Looking back, it was one of the happiest and most satisfying parts of my life. We broke it off amicably and remained friends right up until the time she succumbed to terminal illness a few years ago. I married my college professor. We've been together almost 20 years. I was over 21 and he was not yet 30. It was an independent study type course my last semester. I had to hint to him that I was interested. We went on a date and the rest is history. Not a scandal or big deal. Had a huge crush on my high school gym teacher. Few years after graduation, Facebook came out and I looked him up. Still super hot. We met up for drinks. Then a week later he invited me to his place for dinner. It was a one-time thing. It was ducking awesome. Although now almost 10 years later he'll still text me thirsty as all hell. No regrets. I turned 18 my senior year. My German teacher and I were always flirty before that though. He was married my junior year but divorced by my senior year. I slept with him 3 times. Found out I had chlamydia. Confronted him about it. He I knew about it. I got mine all cleared up and now he's married to some chick, probably still with chlamydia, and teaching English over in Dubai. I dated a TA when I was in college. It really wasn't too big a deal. She didn't grade the final paper. And most of the test's quizzes were multiple choice fill in the blank. So there wasn't really any way for her to show me preferential treatment. Just sat and listened to her read through the prof's PowerPoint slides and answer questions. We didn't tell the prof or anyone in the class. But we weren't exactly secretive either. I doubt anyone would have cared. It didn't really have a hot or teacher vibe. But the first few weeks were kind of fun, stealing glances and such. Not so much dated, but she was my 8th grade English teacher. She and her husband had a house on the lake where I lived. Her husband worked all week and would only come down on the weekends. My friend and I saw her one day while skiing. She asked us to stop by later that evening. She had beer. She was in her early 30s. That night we just talked about the previous school year. And my friend and I got drunk and passed out on her couch. She asked us back that evening. We grabbed a beer and she whispered to me, "Don't drink too much tonight," when my friend passed out on the couch. She asked if I wanted to go to the bedroom with her. Of course I did. We had sex 3 or 4 times a week for the next 2 months. A couple of times twice a day. After the summer was over I went to high school, a different school, 9th grade, and never saw her again. The next summer we went by her lake house and someone else answered the door. She had sold it. I dated my high school history teacher year after graduating high school. We're still together 5 years later. It was awkward with my high school friends once we came out. He is the best man I've ever met and I'll definitely be with him forever. He's 10 years older than me. So we still have lots in common. I'd say the worst part is that going back to our hometown, still so many dirty looks. Wish they could just be happy for us. I slept with my student once. I was her TA for organic chemistry. She was 21 and I was 23. The sex was stellar and I told the professor of the lab that I couldn't be responsible for grading her paper. He gave me a wink and told me that's how he met his husband. We broke up at the end of the course, but I'll always remember her as the girl who ended my slump. When I was a sophomore in high school I started hooking up with my early 20s substitute teacher. It was a weird time in my life and at that point a huge fantasy of mine. as it might be for other teenage boys. It started in my algebra class. I was the resident class clown and talked her at load for no reason other than interrupting the flow of class. She was really hot, and my friends and I were discussing her features when I decided it was a good idea to strike up a conversation with her. This was mostly to impress my friends, and I didn't consider that she would react to my hitting on her. I think I asked her if she wanted to get a burrito for lunch one day and she responded with talk to me after class. My friends thought I was in deep it, but the way she looked me in the eye and engaged seemed out of the ordinary. Fast forward a couple weeks. She is still subbing my class and we have hung out a couple of times. Hikes and food and the like. Frankly, I was astounded by these turn of events and was in somewhat of a confused stupor. I didn't really pick up on her advances until my birthday, when she invited me to her house and gave me an eighth of purple and a vibrating cock ring. She said we should use it sometime. I was freaking out inside but trying to act like Cary Grant or something. She informed that her biggest fantasy was to have a student go down on her while she wore her teaching clothes. I obliged in a very clumsy manner, to say the least. I stupidly broke up with my girlfriend of a year and began to invest time into this odd situation. She was a Diablo Cody sort of character. She was a stripper on the side and had several sugar daddies that would take her on vacation, but she would not allow them to touch her. I would see her downtown with these dudes and have to pretend like I didn't know her. She introduced me to Arrested Development, AMA show and other comedic stuff that shaped my interests nowadays. She wanted to write about her experiences and I agreed that it would make a good story. Like I'm doing now, I guess. Oh, she also had a sex swing. My mom caught wind of this and eventually got her teaching credentials stripped. She didn't get in any legal trouble but definitely stopped talking to me. I'm friends with her on Facebook and I think she does improv in NY City and not much else. I've never written about this and kinda forgot about it, to be real. I was stoked at the time, but looking back it was pretty inappropriate. Dated and married my general chemistry TA. Nothing scandalous, though. We didn't start dating until a couple of years after the class ended. I had a huge crush on him throughout, and we'd run into each other a bit on campus and chat. Eventually we saw each other intentionally, then dated. During the class, I did go to a lot of tutoring, digging through my textbook for obscure it to ask him. He's a good man. He always redirected our conversations back to chemistry when I'd try to get off topic. We laugh now because it was super obvious, and I actually did learn a lot from him. I dated my HS teacher. I turned 18 senior year. I audited her class because the first grading period I got a B and didn't want to bring my GPA down. I would do the work in her class, then do homework for other classes. After a while, I would just talk to her after I finished the work. After a while, she invited me over for dinner. The second time I went to her house it was on. We dated in secret the rest of the year. It was a pretty awesome education. One of my classmates started dating a professor and he eventually got her pregnant. She graduated before revealing their relationship and marrying him, but everyone knows it started during school. I might add, this isn't the first student the professor has ducked.